Okay, I've got a setting up webinar. Okay. All right. It looks like we're live. Okay, I've got a setting up webinar.
Has anyone joined us?
Hold on. I believe it is still us currently, but there is a bit of a lag with the YouTube live stream, but I will have that muted on my computer, but I will monitor that as well so that if we have any questions come in, I will relay that to us and we can talk about anything that comes in. Mhm. Sharing our presentation. All right, so it is 4 o'clock here on the East Coast, so it's 1 o'clock over on the West Coast in Pacific time. And so if you both are ready, I think we should get started. Does that sound all right?
Get started.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you, Erica and Adam, for joining me here for our WSET Diploma or Level 4 info session webinar. Whether you are joining live or if you're watching the recording, welcome and thank you so much for joining us as we talk about the WSET Diploma program. We are representing both Commonwealth Wine School here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, as well as Grape Experience out in San Francisco, California here today. And I would first like to start off by introducing myself. I am Tim Powers. I'm our Student Services Director and one of our instructors at Commonwealth Wine School. And I'm very fortunate, very lucky to be joined here by Erica Fry, who is our Education Director at Commonwealth Wine School here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, as well as Adam Chase, who is our WSET Director at Commonwealth Wine School, as well as being the owner, founder, director, and CEO of Grape Experience over on the West Coast. And something that Adam was sharing with me earlier as we were getting prepared for this webinar is that Grape Experience, along with Adam, is one of the longest serving WSET providers in the world, with over 20 years of experience offering WSET certifications. So we're very lucky and very excited to have both him and Erica joining us here today in this webinar as we discuss the WSET diploma. Is there anything that either of you would like to share or add in before we dive in?
No, thanks, Tim. I think the big thing I would say is we get diploma. By this point, we've done it so many times. We've seen so many revisions in the program that we really understand it. And that, I think, is a benefit to anyone who takes the diploma program with Commonwealth or with Grape Experience. You don't have to be in San Francisco or in Cambridge. You can be anywhere in the world as long as you can come a couple of times a year to either San Francisco or the Boston area to take your exams. And so we really get it. And it's something we're proud of.
Absolutely. And the WSET diploma, it might come across as an ordeal or, a marathon, but it is really quite simple once it's broken down. So hopefully through this webinar, we'll be able to shed some light and illuminate the entire process so that, it's not as intimidating as it might seem at first. Erica, anything that you'd like to add in?
No, I think I'll pitch in at the end once there's some questions.
Fantastic. All right, Adam, I will hand it over to you as we progress to our next slide then.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. So first of all, diploma is an investment. It's an investment in time. It's an investment in thinking, and it's an investment in cost. But I will say this to anyone who's considering it. If you've gotten to the mindset where you're actually thinking, maybe I'd like to do this, but I'm not sure, do it. Because you will find this is one of the most valuable things you will do in your life. It will set you up in terms of professionally very, very well, but also personally, you will understand wine better. But not only that, when you travel, when you interact with winemakers, when you're having wine with friends or family, it'll just give you a perspective that you can't have any other way. And of course, the people you will meet in Diploma, either online or in person, are phenomenal. They'll become lifelong friends. So let's talk a little bit about how Diploma is organized. It is a 2-year program. When you enroll in Diploma, you're actually enrolling for 3 years. WSET gives you 3 years to finish the program. So what happens if for some reason you don't finish in 3 years? You can re-enroll. And if you re-enroll, you will get another 3 years. You will not lose any passes of any of the diploma units that you have exams for. The first 2 diploma units, D1, wine production, and D2, wine business, and you'll get a feel for the convention of naming these units, D for diploma, 1, then 2, are considered foundation units. And so these units you have to do before you do any other unit. These units really are key because the concepts that you learn in these units actually carry over to D4, which is sparkling wine, D5, fortified wine, D6, which is your research paper, which we'll talk about, but even more D3. And for those of you who did level 3, and if you haven't, you do need to do level 3 and pass it before starting diploma. D3 takes level 3 to a whole new level. You will feel so prepared for D3 by taking level 3. So the foundation units have to be sat before the other units. Now, you'll notice that on this slide, the word sit is in italics. You don't have to pass these units to go on to the other units. Of course, we hope you will, but you don't have to. WSET says you have to have sat them, meaning you have to have taken the exam. So some people might fail D1 and they say, well, can I take D2 or can I go to D3? Yes, you can, as long as you have sat both exams before the other units. What is D1? D1 is a deep dive into viticulture and winemaking. Not just what is done, but why it's done and how things are changing. And you all can imagine, with everything you hear about the world's changing climate, that this unit is incredibly dynamic. We're talking about things like regenerative viticulture, which keeps carbon in the soil. We're talking about new clones that help vines adapt. We talk about new farming methods, organic, biodynamic, etc., which these days feels like old school at this point. There's so many new things coming out. This unit has a 90-minute exam, and there's usually 4 to 5 essay questions of different lengths. One will be very straightforward, maybe, a paragraph. Another might be 2 or 3 paragraphs. So that's D1. D2 looks at the business of wine around the world, the different models that are used in different countries. It also takes a really good examination of business concepts in general, marketing, branding, pricing, how you think about branding, how you think about your customer set and customer segmentation. If anyone watching this has been to business school or taken a business education in the past, you will find that D2 just takes everything you've learned and applies it to the global wine industry. Shorter exam, 60 minutes, 3 to 4 questions, again, of varying length. 2 very fundamental units, really, really important for diploma, and units that will give you an understanding of the wine world, not, as I said, by what is done, but why it's done and why that matters. I use the word the so what of what you're learning. Why is it important that we're teaching you this? And those concepts you'll use throughout the other units. So let's talk about the other units. The biggest diploma unit is D3. D3 is covering all of the major global wine producing regions. For those of you who have finished or in level 3, we actually go beyond the regions that we talk about in level 3 and D3. We go deeper in terms of what we talk about, but we also go broader. We talk about places like Jura and sub areas of places like the Languedoc, like Picpoul de Pinet. We go to Coonawarra and Padaway in Australia and look at McLaren Vale in much greater detail. We look at Canada, much greater. California, much greater detail. So this is the longest unit you can imagine. We're talking about multiple countries around the world, and we're looking at the natural factors in those regions. Now, the region can be as small as a vineyard or as large as a country. What's happening naturally that humans really can't control? What's changing? For example, climate change in Italy doesn't necessarily mean that things are hotter. It means that weather is much less predictable. So how does a winemaker think about that? In Spain, drought is an issue. How does a winemaker think about that? What do they plant? How do clones impact that? How do rootstocks impact that? It's a really interesting look at how you work in the global wine regions today. Not just what they do, why they do it, what the opportunities are for them, and what the real threats are. So we'll look at those trends. We'll look at how producers are responding. This course runs half a year, actually more. And we offer it two ways. You can do it all online, and we have great online resources, or you can do online and come to some class days throughout the year. When you get to the exam's only given twice a year, once in May and then once in October. It's a 2-day exam, and you might go, oh, 2 days. Why would I want to spend 2 days? That sounds terrible. Trust me, it's so much better than it was 5 or 6 years ago when the whole exam was 1 day. This is much saner. So the first day you come in and you have 2 hours to write essay questions on 3 topics. You can choose, there are 4 topics that you can choose from. You choose 3 of them and you write for 2 hours. So roughly 40 minutes an essay. Then there's a lunch break, and then you come back after lunch and you'll have 3 choices of which you need to write on 2 of them. So 2 more essays, again, 40 minutes each for 80 minutes. On day 2, you come in and we give you 6 wines and you have 90 minutes to write a tasting note on each of the wines. Now the wines are grouped in groups of 3. So the first 3 will likely be the same variety. And at the end of the 3rd tasting note, they'll ask you, what do you think the variety is and why? And it's not necessarily about getting the variety right. It's about learning to reason as to why that might be that variety. Let's say the variety is Chardonnay and you say Pinot Grigio. You still can pass the exam. It's not like we're doing a trivia contest here. You break for lunch again, you have another 90 minutes, another 6 wines. Again, I said they're broken in 3. First 3 is the same variety. Second 3 is the same region. The third 3 is the same country. And then the final 3 will be a mixed bag. And this is the one unit where if you pass the theory part of the exam, but not the tasting, you only retake the part you failed. The other exams are not like that. So those of you who are in level 3, this is basically the same format in terms of the exam. Let's go on to D4 and D5. So D4 is sparkling wines and D5 is fortified wines. And again, we're looking at the same things, except we're narrowing our focus here. We're looking solely at sparkling wines and the regions that produce them. So we'll look at what are the strengths, for example, of Franciacorta or Trento DOC in Italy. What are the strengths of the South African sparkling wine, Cap Classique market, Champagne, Cava, Prosecco, you name it. We look at all of the major categories. And we do what we call a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We're looking at business models. We're looking at business constraints. We're looking at cooperatives and what role they play, growers versus producers, all of those kinds of things. And we'll examine what the trends are. Where are consumers buying? Where are they not buying? What things are sort of passé these days and really need to find a new way to market? So we'll look at all of that. We'll do the same for fortified wines. Again, we're looking at very specific countries here, only fortified wine countries. So really we're focused on Spain for sherry, focused on Portugal for port, Portugal again for Madeira. And we'll also look at Australia and France in their fortified Muscat wines. In this case, the exam is very similar. You'll come in, have 90 minutes to complete the entire exam. 3 blind wines, 3 to 4 theory questions, and you have to get 55% of all the points. So what does that mean? Well, you could take the exam, pass the wine portion, the tasting portion, fail the theory portion, and still pass the exam. Or vice versa. You could fail the blind wines, pass the theory, and pass the exam. You could also fail the exam. You could pass one section, fail the other, and fail the exam. You need to pass the whole exam. In this case, for D4 or D5, if you pass a portion of the exam, but not the other, and the total percentage of points that you got in both sections is less than 55%, you need to retake the whole exam. So these are really interesting units. There are areas of the world where some people might say for 4 to 5 wine, oh, I don't drink 4 to 5 wines. I don't like 4 to 5 wines. I got to tell you, that's really good in some respects because this is a category that's having trouble. Think about it. How many of your friends are drinking sherry or port or Ruther Glen Muscat or Madeira? So it's a really interesting opportunity to take a deep dive into these subtopics of wine and really understand not just how it's done, but what are they going to do given trends. Let's go on to the next one, Tim. The final part of diploma is the D6 research paper. And at some point before you pass diploma, you need to write and pass one of these papers. The way the WSET works, their school year starts August 1st. So each August, they list 2 topics that you can choose from. One topic, you would have to submit your paper on January 31st of the following year. So for example, this August topic, the first one will be due January 31st, 2026. For the second topic, if you choose to write on that, you submit it July 31, 2026. If you don't like the topics, don't write on them. Go to the next year. The next year, there'll be 2 new topics that'll be announced. So each year there's 2 new topics. You don't have to do it in any particular order. Pick a topic you like. You just have to write on one and pass it before diploma is finished. So a word about these units and the numbering. I talked at the beginning that you need to do D1 and then D2. D3, D4, D5, and D6 are a little confusing because you do not need to do them in that order. And in fact, depending on when you start diploma, you won't do them in that order. Someone who starts in June will do D1 and D2 between now and October, and then they'll do D3. Someone who starts in August will do D1 and D2 in October and January, and then they will do likely D4. So it just varies when you start. The numbers are only meaningful for D1 and D2. The other numbers are not sequential. Next slide, Tim.
Absolutely.
So diploma is more of a seminar than it is a course where you come in and sit and take notes and someone lectures and that's all you need to know. First of all of the diploma materials are digital. The textbooks are digital. The study support is digital. Some people love that, some people don't. You can certainly print out the textbooks on your own. The good thing about having a digital textbook is that it can be updated from year to year, and it is. And it also is much easier to search than if you had a hard copy of a textbook. If you have forgotten what rootstock SO4 is, you can type that into your search bar and you can find it and review it. But the key to doing well in diploma is to make it part of your life for the time that you're in it, which means that you have to take ownership of your learning and you have to plan your time. You cannot go by a week and not do anything. Even if it's 5 minutes that week, you need to keep it active. Ideally, you would spend more than 5 minutes a week on diploma. You'd spend multiple hours, but plan your time because time goes by very fast. And you will find that your best laid plans go to waste if you do not plan your time. Taking ownership of your own learning goes hand in hand with that. It means if you see something interesting, Google it. Talk to a winemaker. Talk to a wine shop owner. If you want to go visit a vineyard, even if you're living in Texas or Virginia or Illinois, there are vineyards there. Massachusetts, there are vineyards. Go visit a vineyard. Tell them you're studying for diploma. Talk to the winemakers. Talk to whoever you can. Teach other people. People are going to be amazed and impressed that you're doing this. So if you have people who come over to your house, you have a dinner party, or you just want to organize some teaching sessions for people you work with, This is a great way to sort of ingrain the knowledge in your head for diploma. And it also makes it more fun because it makes it relevant. Even if it's just your friends and family, you're teaching them makes it relevant. And I always say, don't dumb down what you're teaching. Teach them as if you were teaching diploma. And they may be confused. And if they are confused, that's really good because it means that you have to explain it. Use non-traditional study opportunities. Those are things like going to vineyards, reading the wine press, keep a structured notebook, make notes so that when you actually do go to the exam or 2 weeks or so before the exam, you can look up, oh, I see that. I'm not sure what that was. I want to go back and reread it. And then finally, you become part of a great group of other diploma students. And there really is a bond that forms. So help each other. You'll meet a ton of really interesting people. Some you will like, some you might not like, but you will find that they're all interesting and they become contacts for life.
Absolutely. No, I think it's really important to note here, Adam, from what you were saying, the diploma is more of a journey. You know, of course, we're looking for that certificate or that pin or what have you, but really it is about the information that you learn and the connections that you make with these individuals. And I can't tell you how many of our diploma graduates with whom I've spoken have said, you know, how much fun they had, you know, the friendships that they've made and have lasted after they've graduated from the diploma. So I think it's really a positive mindset to think about this as an experience and not just a series of exams or papers that you have to write.
On the whole, it's a blast. I mean, it really is. You will love it. There will be times you will be frustrated and you won't like it, but on the whole, you will love it. And as I said, if anyone out there is even thinking about it, it's for you. When you get to that step of, should I do it? Should I not? Do it. We'll help you, by the way. We'll help you plan. We're not going to let you, sink or swim. We will help you and we'll work with you to make it work for you.
Absolutely. And so our next few slides will talk about the different ways that we're going to help you. But before we get into that, I do just want to note a few things that I wrote down while Adam was speaking. First is that there are 6 units that you do need to complete and pass. However, all of your passes will stand in perpetuity. So what that means is, you know, say that you take D1 and D2 and pass the exams, and something happens in your life and you need to take a few months or a year off. When you come back to your diploma studies, those passes will remain passes. It's not something that disappears or is scrubbed from your record or what have you. It will continue forever and will be recorded by WSET forever as a completed portion of the diploma. So, you know, of course, we would like you to start your diploma and complete it all in a timely manner. But if something happens, if your life, you know, has a change, it is a process that you are able to pause and then jump back into when you're able to continue your studies. And then another thing that I wanted to note is that D3, the Wines of the World, is, as Adam noted, the largest unit of the diploma. However, I think it's a really wonderful opportunity that sparkling wines and fortified wines are portioned off from that course in D4 and D5. So, you know, of the 12 wines that are being tasted, keep in mind, in the blind tasting portion of the exam, keep in mind that none of them will be sparkling, none of them will be fortified. They will either be white, rosé, or red, or potentially amber, I guess. And as Adam mentioned, they are broken into those groups of 3 or flights of 3 wines. So it's not like we're throwing you to the wolves with 12 mystery wines that you have to perfectly call. It's all about, as you might have seen with the level 3 blind tasting exam, more assessing what's in the glass than correctly labeling or identifying them. But before we move on then to the next slide, Erica, did you have anything that you wanted to add? Okay, fantastic. Adam, anything else from you?
No, it's funny you said that about the wines, Tim, because in doing this over 20 years, I've had people who have not passed D3 and they'll tell me it's impossible. I got every wine right. And I listen to that. And at first, I don't really believe it. But secondly, it doesn't matter if you get every wine right. It's not about getting the wines right. It's about getting your sense of what's in the glass. The best thing about WSET versus some of the other wine programs is that tasting at WSET is not about magic. It's not about saying, I can guess that wine in 4 sips. It's about understanding the production techniques and then the quality that you would rate that wine. So it's much more rational. That's what I would say.
Absolutely. And it's very interesting. So I'm currently in the WSET diploma program myself. And what I found so fascinating is how applicable all of this information is. You know, and Adam, you just mentioned that you're tasting to assess quality, and to assess typicity of the wine. And I think that's something that whether you're working in a restaurant, working in retail, or just an enthusiast of wine yourself, that's something that you can use day in and day out, more so than, you know, pulling the rabbit out of a hat by saying, "Oh, I know this is a Malbec just from the smell." You know, although that might look flashy, that might not be as applicable in the real world. All right. So, as Adam said, we are here to help you through this process. And one of the ways that we do this is through our online or in-person and online course options. So these are offered both by Commonwealth Wine School and by Grape Experience. And so both of these options are going to include access to the WSET online classroom. And so what this is if you took the level 3 Award in Wines online, you've already experienced this. But if you took the course in person, you might not have as much experience with their online learning platform. But it's a fantastic portal where you're able to have access to so many study resources, as well as be able to communicate with your fellow classmates and collaborate on projects and assignments. And you also have a WSET certified educator provided by WSET themselves, who will be leading you through all of these assignments and exercises and providing feedback on your mock exams and mock essay questions. And this also includes a WSET feedback exam. You have one of these feedback exams for each of the online classes in which you enroll or are enrolled. And what this is a really fantastic opportunity where you are provided with a mock WSET diploma exam, so the list of essay questions, and you're given the opportunity to write on these and submit it to WSET directly. This is then graded by the WSET instructor, and they're able to give you direct feedback on your performance and how much information not only you retained, but were able to convey and synthesize and analyze in your response. So we really encourage our students to take part in these WSET feedback exams, even if, you know, you might have, you know, life got in the way and you weren't able to commit to the course as much as you wanted to. These feedback exams are able to give you a really good idea of your strengths, but more importantly, your weaknesses, so that you're able to perform however you perform on this feedback exam, receive the results and the feedback, the review from your instructor, and then prepare accordingly for the actual exam. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to have some assessment of your own learning and your own analysis of the information before you're walking into the exam room proper. Now, with Commonwealth Wine School and Grape Experience, not only do you have access to this WSET online classroom, you also have access to our own proprietary online learning platform. So this is a fantastic online portal that has recorded lectures, additional mock exams, mock questions, flashcards, and further study resources so that you can have just, you know, kind of the world at your fingertips as you are going through all of this material. It's not just a course where we ship you a textbook and say, good luck. There are so many resources that you have access to. So whether you're more of a visual learner, an auditory learner, a kinesthetic learner, what have you, we have tools that are going to be best suited for your learning style. And we have experience teaching so many other learners who have come before you who probably have some similar learning styles as well. Additionally, with both options, you have access to online office hours, to our WSET certified educators and instructors, where you're able to schedule appointments with them to either, you know, hash out exam questions or mock exam questions that you were not familiar with, to go over portions of the textbook that might not have been clear, or to ask any questions that you might have written down as you were going through your active learning or through your studying process. So this is a really wonderful opportunity to connect with one of our incredible faculty members and incredible instructors that we have, so that, again, you're not alone. You're able to schedule these so that you can have access to all of the support and help that you might need. Additionally, it's not on this slide, but I just want to note as well, through the WSET online classroom, you will have access to the examiner's reports, which is, where the graders of the WSET exams release the exam questions after a period of a few years, so that you can go through and see their notes and see where some students did well and some students, maybe needed to have done better. And you also have access to the list of the wines that were on the blind tasting exams on previous exams. So with level 3, we are not allowed to disclose any of the wines that were used for the blind tasting portion of the exam. However, for the diploma, typically after about 2 to 3 business days, they will post that on their online classroom so that you'll be able to look through and review not only the wines that you may have tasted, but also the wines that were used in previous exams, so that you can go out and source them yourself to try, to sample, to taste, so that you have a better idea of what you're walking into. So I know a lot of students tend to view the blind tasting portion with quite a bit of trepidation, because it is something that you don't have a whole lot of control over in terms of what wines will be poured for the exam. But it is something that WSET very much works to give you as much practice and as much access and visibility as they can in the diploma process. Now, for the in-person and online combo course options, you have access to all of those fantastic resources, but then you also have in-person class sessions, either in person in San Francisco or in person here at our location in Harvard Square in Cambridge. And these in-person class sessions are a fantastic opportunity to work with your fellow classmates and diploma candidates through guided tasting practices and additional mock exam questions. So, if you are a learner or a student who really values those in-person opportunities, then this is a fantastic way for you to dive in person to get that face-to-face interaction or learning time that you might need. Before I move on to the next slide, I just want to ask Adam or Erica, do you have anything that you'd like to add here?
The only thing I would say is, and this is something that those of you who've taken level 3 know, we do not know the examiners. Tim doesn't know them. I don't know them. Erica doesn't know. We may be surprised when we find out who they are, that we actually do know someone. But WSET does not allow anyone other than their clerical staff to interact with the examiners. So the examination reports, the examiner's reports that Tim was talking about, and the feedback tests are your way of getting a sense of what they're looking for. Because we're not going to have a lecture. We're not going to hear an examiner come talk to us about, hey, this is what we're looking for. So these things that you get, that we give you, and some centers charge you for these. We don't, these feedback exams. They're really critical because it's really your only interaction with the examiner.
Absolutely. No, it's what an incredible opportunity to be able to get this direct feedback before you're going in for the exam proper. Absolutely. Erica, did you have anything?
Yeah, I wanted to just add and emphasize that for each one of the 6 units, well, not including the paper, but the D1 through D5, it's really your choice whether you're doing the unit either completely online or with an online or in-person component. So that gives you some flexibility. There may be some units, for instance, the D3, D4, D5, which do involve a tasting exam where you want to be there tasting wines with the instructor, with other students. And also, there's flexibility where maybe if you do not live close to Cambridge or San Francisco, you can do the whole entire program online and just come for the exam. So there's some flexibility. If you decide maybe just to do one of the units in person, that's fine too. So there is that option to sort of customize that experience.
Absolutely. I think that's a fantastic point. We frequently have diploma candidates who, for D1, say, want to take it in person and online because it's the first unit. They want to make sure that they're starting off on a strong footing. But then, maybe they feel very confident about their business of wine acumen or experience, and so choose to take D2 online only. Or if there's someone who's not in the industry, it might be the exact opposite. They feel very comfortable handling the D1 information on viticulture and viniculture themselves, but really think that they want and need that business of wine experience to be in person to have that extra assistance. Additionally, I know with D3 being the longer course with much more material, a lot of our diploma candidates choose to take that in person in addition to the online course, just to get all of that tasting practice. And sometimes for D4 for sparkling because of the cost of the sparkling wines, or D5 for fortified because of the availability and sourcing of the fortified wines. Some of our diploma candidates choose to take that in person and online as opposed to just online. All right, fantastic. So here we will move on now. So here is a fantastic list of all of our study resources that we provide to our diploma candidates. So whether you're taking the online only or the in-person and online combo course, again, as I had mentioned, you get access to recorded lectures, live webinar sessions with our instructors, assignments that you can submit to us, and through WSET, through their online classroom to receive feedback, flashcard decks, review quizzes, additional resources and videos, as well as discounts that we have with our various partners around the world with the wine industry for our diploma candidates. And you have access to all of this through our online learning platform for 1 year, from your original course dates. So again, say that you were enrolled in the course, but life happened and you had to defer your exam for a few months. You'll still have access to all of these resources through our own online learning platform. All right, anything that Adam or Erica you would like to add to this? Okay, fantastic. We mentioned a lot of this on the previous slide, so that's why I was going through it a little bit quicker.
Yeah. I think the newest development, however, is that it's now mobile friendly,
Ah, yes.
right? So you can access all of these things on your tablet or your phone as well.
That's a great note. Yes. So whether, if you have a laptop, wonderful, or a computer, fantastic, you can access the online learning platform through there, pardon. But we are on the Apple App Store and the Google App Store so that you can download our own app and access our online learning platform directly there. So I know we had one of our diploma candidates was telling me recently, they enjoy listening to some of our recorded lectures when they go to the gym. And so, Adam, they were listening to your D2 wine business lectures while on the treadmill this past weekend. So, talk about making the diploma a part of your life in all ways. Am I right?
And my lectures are so exciting.
I think so. I think you do a marvelous job. All right. So, I had mentioned previously about the diploma exams, and Adam had touched on this as well. But unlike our level 3 exams, which we're able to offer every other month here on the East Coast, and I know Grape Experience offers them quite frequently as well over on the West Coast, the WSET diploma exam dates are set by WSET themselves. So when we see here in January that we have the D2, D4, D5, and D6 exam dates, these are exam dates around the world. So no matter with whom you're studying or taking the WSET diploma, these exams will be the same date at the same time in your relevant time zone, no matter where you are, what you're doing, how you're approaching the WSET diploma. So we have listed here all of the WSET diploma exam dates. So we see January, it's typically towards the end of January, around the 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd-ish. And on that date, we offer D2, D4, D5, and D6. Now, do note that D2, D4, and D5 are in-person exams, either here in Commonwealth Wine School at Harvard Square or in person over at Grape Experience in San Francisco. But D6 is the research paper that is due at the end of the month on January 31st in hard copy, either here at Commonwealth Wine School or over in San Francisco with Grape Experience. So that is not a unit or an exam that you have to attend in person. That is just a paper that you submit in hard copy to us by the end of the day. Oh, fantastic. So it looks like we received a question. And Adam, thank you for responding to it. But just to address this aloud as well, if someone passes D1 and D2, but ends up not being able to complete the diploma within those 3 years that comes with your initial registration, if you then choose to come back 5 or so years later, yes, your D1 and D2 passes will remain valid in perpetuity forever. So I know we actually had a diploma candidate recently renew her studies after, I want to say about 7 or 8 years. And WSET was able to, look up her account, find her candidate ID number and email and all of that. And all of her previous passes from her previous units from when she had initially started were still valid and have been recorded now as she's continuing on her WSET diploma journey.
Yeah, and Tim, I would just add that we've had people 10, 15 years take a breather. And in that time, diploma has changed. They've renumbered the units and you still get those passes. So if, in the past, wine business was D1 and wine production was D2, they'll give you a pass for the new D2 wine business. Just one thing I want to recap on this slide because it looks like it's confusing. Yes, although you could do D2, D4, and D5 on one day, it doesn't mean you have to do all those exams on one day. January of one year, you might be doing D2. The next January, you might be doing D5. So it doesn't mean you're doing 3 exams in a paper on one day. It's just when WSET offers them. And we often get questions, oh my gosh, my boss told me I need to be at work and I can't make the exam date. Can you give it to me the night before? No. We wish we could. We'd love to, but we would be in big trouble with WSET. Everyone around the world is taking the exams on the same day. So don't be fooled. There's no customization except for D1, which we can work with you on.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. And that's a great point, Adam. Do note that these exams are physically shipped to us from WSET in London. And they're shipped out to every diploma center around the world. I believe there are up to 42, 44 diploma centers around the world now. But so it's the exact same exam on the same date at the same time, no matter where you are. And I really wish that we had more flexibility, I guess, but it does also, it's a bit comforting that everyone's going through this same experience together. Now, I do just want to note a few things here. I mentioned that the D6 paper is due at the end of the month in January. Then, as Adam had mentioned, there is the second topic that is due in the end of the month of July. Again, that does have to be in hard copy to us, either in Cambridge for Commonwealth Wine School or in San Francisco for Grape Experience. And then you'll notice that D2 is offered in January, in March, in June, and in October. D4 and D5 are offered 3 times a year in January, June, and October. And D3 is offered twice a year, as Adam said, in May and October. And then we have our D1 exam retakes, which are offered in March and October. Now, we do have some flexibility with our D1 exam dates, where we're able to schedule them in accordance with each cohort or class session that we begin. So for example, with the D1 exam that we're offering that starts on June 2nd, we do have that in-person exam scheduled for July 31st. So that's going to coincide with that D6 paper that is due. So we do have the ability to offer the D1 exam slightly more frequently, and that is an exam date that might differ depending on the diploma provider. But it's something that we offer, I believe we're up to 5 times per year currently. And so if you do have any questions about your D1 initial exam date, please let us know and we can provide you with a list of those. But do note that if something happens and you end up needing to retake the D1 exam, that is going to only be offered in March and October of every year. Now, Adam also mentioned that there are quite a lot of exams happening on each of these days, on each of these months. And we very much encourage you not to take them all on the same day. But what is nice is that they're generally the same week or time of the month, year after year. And so you're able to schedule these out with some regularity for the next few years as you plot out your diploma journey. And WSET does provide us with these exam dates a number of years in advance. So, for example, I know what I'm doing around May 14th of 2026 because it's a D3 exam date, and I know that I'll be sitting for that D3 exam. So if you're someone for whom your job requires a large amount of planning or a significant amount of lead time in order to request time off to sit for these exams, you're more than able to do so. Furthermore, similar to the Level 3 Award in Wines exam, these exams, with the exception of course being D6, do have to be sat in person, either with Grape Experience in San Francisco or with Commonwealth Wine School here in Cambridge. And so even though D1 and D2, there is no blind tasting component, it is just writing theory or writing answer essay questions. It does have to be taken in person, so you will need to plan out and accommodate for that as necessary. And finally, again, if you've taken the Level 3 Award in Wines course, this might seem familiar, but results are returned to us around 10 weeks after the exam. And I completely understand that that is a very long amount of time to be sitting and waiting for your exam results. And the anticipation or apprehension is palpable and painful. And again, as a diploma candidate, I completely understand. And I'm going through it myself. But do understand that these exams, because they're taken in person, have to be packaged and manually shipped to WSET. So there is a certain amount of lag time just for shipping. And because these exams are being held by the diploma centers around the world on the same day with the same exam questions, there's quite a large number of exams that are returned to WSET after each one of these. And so rather than grade them one by one and release the exam results as they have them, which might not necessarily be fair depending on where you're located or where the exams had to be shipped in from, all of these exams are graded in one fell swoop so that they can release the exam results simultaneously. So that, you know, your colleague who sat for the exam with you, or on the same day as you, pardon, in Australia, will receive their exam results on the same date at the same time as you do. So once these exam results are returned to us, we reach out to you directly via email, by the email that you used during registration, pretty much within as soon as we possibly can to make sure that you have those exam results. And so either can rejoice and celebrate in your passing of the exam or plan to retake the exam or reschedule the exam as necessary. All right, Adam, Erica, anything that you'd like to add on here before we move on?
No, just to note that the exams are during the day on weekdays. So you
Yes,
can
that's right.
mention taking time off. But you do have plenty of notice, and I think you just tell your manager, whoever you work for, that it's just a day that you're not going to be able to be at work. It's a personal day. If you were sick, you would take that day off. If you had jury duty, you would. Think of it like something like that. It's just a good way of planning.
Absolutely. And an additional point, thank you, Adam, that reminded me. We do understand that life happens, or sometimes dates just don't work. And so students are able to defer their WSET exam dates for up to 1 year from their original exam date. So say you were enrolled in a D3 course and were scheduled to sit for the exam in May of 2025. You would be able to reschedule that exam to either October of 2025 or May of 2026 without any additional fees or charges or anything like that. So you are able to have some flexibility about when you're taking these exams. But again, note, especially for D3, because it's only offered twice per year, that you do have to keep that in mind as you're looking to defer your exam to a later date. Unfortunately, once you are registered for those exams formally, once we've sent in your information to WSET, then there is a fee to then re-register for a different exam date. But again, that's something that we communicate with you quite directly, both upon registration with your welcome emails, and we follow up a few weeks before that registration deadline for the exam, just to confirm that you in fact would like to sit for that exam date. Because we really are trying to help you, I promise. All right. We've just received another question saying, are there D1 and D2 available as online slash in-person combo or typically not? That's a great question.
Yeah, I was just typing the answer to that. I think that once a year, at least in one of the cities, we do offer an in-person component for D1 and D2. I will say that what we have found is that most people really want to take these units online. And there's a couple of reasons why. The first is there's no wine tasting in these units. This is a theory-only exam. The lectures that you would get by coming to class, we actually give you online. You can watch them. So there's no tasting that you're really missing out on that would help you with the exam. Secondly, we do Zoom sessions for these 2 units where we do tasting, where we show you how tasting differs at diploma versus level 3. And thirdly, some people, because diploma can get pricey, by taking these 2 units online, you save a little bit of money. But we do try and do an in-person component in at least one of the cities once a year.
Exactly. Yep. I know here for Commonwealth Wine School, each unit, excepting, of course, D6, which is the independent study research paper, we offer as an in-person and online combination course once per year per unit. So if you are a student who really enjoys that in-person, face-to-face time with the instructor, you're able to do so. And of course, thank you so much for submitting that comment. And just a note to anybody else who's joining us here today, feel free to submit your comments or questions as we're going through this presentation and this webinar, and we'll be more than happy to address them and discuss them. Because I assure you, if you're thinking of that comment or that question, probably a few of your other potential WSET diploma candidates are as well. All right, fantastic. Anything else, Adam or Erica, that you'd like to add in before we move to our next slide? Fantastic. All right, so here I will hand things over to our wonderful education director, Erica Fry, so that you can talk a little bit about our diploma instructors and additional ways that we reach out to our WSET diploma candidates.
Thanks, Tim. I think we talked a lot about the program and what you'll get out of it as far as wine knowledge and the logistics of the program. But I think one thing to really emphasize is the people that you will meet, namely your classmates, but also the instructors. And this, for me, was one of the great benefits of my diploma experience was the networking and the people. As Tim mentioned, I have lifelong friends from my diploma experience, but also mentors and people who are in the business that you can rely on for advice and information. And I want to just point out, we're looking at some of the faces of our diploma instructors for the Commonwealth Wine School and for Grape Experience. They are all active members of the wine industry, representing a very broad scope of all the different jobs in the industry. So anywhere from retail to restaurant to sales, distribution, brokers. So we really have a very comprehensive staff who are experts in their respective fields. However, they're also experts in WSET diploma. They all completed diploma, so they've all been through this journey, and they can relate to what you as students would be facing as far as studying, challenges, the depth of the knowledge, the breadth of the knowledge that you're expected to learn. They've been through that process themselves. Many of them have done it through Grape Experience and Commonwealth Wine School. So they have been part of our family, if you will, for many, many, many years. So we know these instructors very well. We know that they're capable teachers, and many of them have also become WSET certified instructors. So not only do they know diploma, but they've been trained to by WSET as instructors. So, this is something that I think is a great benefit of our organization, that we have these people that have been with us for a long time who are active members of the wine community but are also actively involved with WSET programs.
Absolutely. Before we move on to our next slide, Erica, I want to just highlight and re-emphasize what you said about not only being an expert in wine, but being an expert in WSET itself and their approach and their views on pedagogy and their approach to the information. So something that I meant to mention at the beginning of this webinar, because I know Erica will never say it about herself, Erica Fry happens to be one of the few individuals who has every single WSET certification that is offered. She has, WSET level 4. She has the diploma, level 3 in spirits, level 3 in sake, and up to level 2 in beer. And you don't have level 3 in beer only because they haven't released it yet. And
Yes,
so it's,
yes.
I think, very important to note that understanding how WSET is approaching this knowledge as an instructor is invaluable to then be able to pass that along to the student, so that not only are you learning the information, you will also then be successful on the exam and in your diploma journey overall. Fantastic. Adam, anything that you'd like to add?
You will see other providers will say we have 10 Master of Wines and 5 Master Sommeliers. And that's great. We've got some Master Sommeliers and Masters of Wine in this group as well. But don't be fooled by that, because there are some great Master of Wines, some great Master Sommeliers who are terrible teachers. So the important thing is that you have teachers who know how to teach. And it's probably the thing that we pride ourselves the most on, that we don't choose teachers because of, they're a master of this or a master of that, but that they are really good teachers.
Absolutely. And the master sommeliers and masters of wine that we have on faculty are incredible pedagogues, in addition to, of course, their mastery of the subject itself. It's a wonderful balance that we've been able to find. And, looking at these photos of our instructors just always brings me so much joy because, they're great people too. I count quite a few of them as my friends. So it's a wonderful community that we've been able to build thus far. All right, Erica, can I move to the next slide for you?
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
So, of course, with us, being very digitally moving forward and also having students really from all around the world, keeping in touch, communication is something that's key. So we are working on different ways of just keeping our diploma students especially updated because of all the dates and all the preparation that goes into the diploma journey. So one of the things that you'll definitely be getting from both Commonwealth Wine School and Grape Experience are monthly newsletters that contain important information, such as registration dates for exams, or maybe information about upcoming exams and courses. Sometimes some study tips, how to prepare for some of the exams that are coming up. Relevant industry articles. We even feature sometimes our past diploma students who have now graduated and what they're doing now. And we'll have more things coming along the way, maybe some online communities. We just launched a WSET social at the Commonwealth Wine School, where people got to meet each other in person. Many people who have maybe only seen us online. So that was also very good. So certainly, with our growing community and people being more online, or moving a little bit more online, and also coming from many different parts of the country, we are trying to also build a community of our diploma students. So the newsletter and other things that we are, other initiatives that we have are working towards, building again that network of people that is so important to this particular journey.
Absolutely. And it is a journey. And, although there is quite a bit of administrative work, and deadlines and things like that, that's what we handle and we take care of. I always say there's enough to learn in the diploma itself without having to learn things, like your candidate ID number or the inner workings of WSET itself. And so this is just another wonderful way that we're able to connect with our diploma candidates to keep them abreast of upcoming classes, upcoming deadlines, upcoming exams, and just anything else that they might need to know as they work through the diploma itself. Adam, anything that you'd like to add in?
I'm good.
And so now that brings us to our frequently asked questions. So these are questions that we've received from many diploma candidates over the years. It's always fun to compile this list of questions. And so I think we'll just go through them as we do. And so Adam, I think you touched on this, but how long does one have to complete their WSET diploma?
You have 3 years, and then you can get an extension. So let's say 3 years is up and you haven't done all the units. And you say, okay, I'm going to wait another 2 years. I want to take 2 years off. You can come back 2 years later, get an extension for another 3 years, and then complete the units. So it's not like you have to do 3 years, then an extension, then another 3 years. If for some reason you need to take a break, the clock keeps running on your initial 3 years, but you can jump back in whenever you want.
Absolutely. And Erica, Adam touched on this as well, but do you have to take all of these courses or diploma units and exams in order?
Not exactly, no. You do have to take D1 and D2. You do have to sit the exams.
Mm-hmm.
But after you've sat for the D1 and D2 exams, which are your foundational knowledge, you can then do the other ones in whatever order you wish. So whatever works best for your schedule. Obviously with D3 being the longest one, that's the one that you probably want to make sure you have a good amount of time to dedicate regular studies to.
Absolutely. I know some students or diploma candidates want to prioritize D3 and do that first and, kind of knock out the larger unit. Whereas some diploma candidates want to do D4 and D5 first so that they can have those under their belt before approaching D3. And so in terms of preference, it's very much up to you, the potential candidate. But I think ultimately the deciding factor does become one's schedule. How much time are you going to be able to devote to these classes and to the exam preparation and all of that? But Erica, you also mentioned for D1 and D2, the phrase foundational knowledge or foundational courses. And that's something I just wanted to highlight again, because the information that you learn in D1, the viticulture and viniculture, and the information that you learn in D2 with the business of wine and marketing and promotion and things like that, is information, that's going to come up in your following units. So it's really important that you do take these units first, and in fact, you have to take those units first, because everything that you learn in those units will then show up again in D3, D4, D5, and as you're preparing to write your D6 paper as well. So Adam, what happens if one needs to retake or defer one of their exams?
Yeah, so if you need to retake the exam, you only pay the exam cost. You don't pay the whole class cost. It's still expensive, but it's much less than if you had to retake the whole class. So you just retake the exam. If you need to defer an exam, this thing becomes a little bit tricky. So once the exam registrations are in, and there's a fairly long lead time by which WSET requires us to register you for an exam, at least for an exam with wine. Once those orders are in and you've been registered, you can only defer if you have a medical or legal reason. And they'll ask for documentation either from a doctor or from a lawyer or a judge. If you fail to come to an exam that you have signed up for, WSET calls it a failure, and you have to retake it and pay for the exam cost, only the exam cost, not the whole class cost. So people say, well, why are the lead times for D3, D4, D5, they're like 10 weeks? Why? Because as of now, and we're not sure if this will ever change, we would like it to, but we don't know, when we enroll you for a D1, D3, D4, D5 exam, the wines for those exams are shipped to us from the UK. So they need the time to understand how many people are going to be taking the exam around the world. how many bottles of each wine they therefore need, and then they ship those wines to us in either Cambridge or San Francisco. So, for example, this is why it's a little bit, we're not 100% in love with the way they do it. If there is a wine from Napa, California that they have selected for the exam, it will go from Napa to London, and then London to Cambridge and back to San Francisco. So it takes a while. There's a lot of logistics here. And that is why the exam lead time for any of the exams with wine is pretty long. For the D1, D2, and D6 paper, it's much shorter lead time to register, but it's a long one for that. So if for some reason, you've registered for an exam in May and you had to do it in March, and it's now April 20th or 27th, and you say, oh my gosh, I can't take the exam, something's happened, you'll need to have a legal or medical excuse. We wish it wasn't so, but it is. So.
For sure. Well, and to your point, Adam, about WSET having to ship out these exams and wines around the world, and this is an internationally recognized certification, with providers in Australia, in South America, here in North America, and Europe. It is a course where candidates can be located anywhere and still be taking the exact same exam. So although that is incredible, and in my opinion, one of the perks or highlights of the diploma, it does come with a bit of the administrative regulation as well, that there is a bit of a lead time for that D3, D4, and D5 registration. All right, Erica, again, we did a great job touching on all of these throughout this webinar, but what are the prerequisites for the WSET diploma?
So the diploma is the only WSET qualification that has a prerequisite, and that is the level 3 awards in wine, and you need to have a passing result in level 3 before you can register for diploma.
Absolutely.
And that's basically because diploma is it is challenging. It is a lot of work, and level 3 is one way that WSET knows that you have done sort of the preparation to go on to this level of learning.
For sure. It's, in my opinion, I don't see it as like a exclusionary prerequisite. It's more of a, let's just make sure that we're all prepared before diving into this. As much as we would love if you had taken level 3 in spirits or level 3 in sake, it is important that you do the level 3 in wines specifically. Or if you, a number of years ago, had done the level 3 award in wines and spirits, that's also applicable as a prerequisite for the WSET diploma. If you're someone who recently sat for, recently sat for your level 3 award in wines exam and are still awaiting your exam results, you are technically allowed to register for the D1 unit on our website, either through Commonwealth Wine School or through Grape Experience. However, you do have to receive your passing grade before the start date of that class. So unfortunately, we, again, do not control when WSET releases their exam results. So that's something that if you have a question about when your exam result might potentially come in or be returned to you, I very much encourage you to reach out to either myself for Commonwealth Wine School or to Adam for Grape Experience, and we can help you more on a case-by-case basis for that. All right, and then finally, I think this entire webinar has been about this, but what is included with the diploma?
I'm not sure we need to go through that again.
Exactly. So let's restart our slides to answer this question. We'll go for another hour. But just again, not only do you have access to the WSET online classroom, our own proprietary online classroom, all of our fantastic instructors, either through the course or through the schedulable office hours, to access to us as your WSET administrators, as your APP or approved program provider. But there's so much more that we're able to offer our diploma candidates.
And 3 Zoom sessions, live and recorded, for D1 and D2, where we go through the program, how to taste wine in the program, and then how to prepare for the D2 exam.
Absolutely. And so although the diploma is quite a bit of information, it is a marathon, not a sprint, as I like to say. I think we give so many different opportunities and resources and so much assistance to all of our diploma candidates. And so that's why we've had an incredible number of successful diploma graduates throughout the years. So I know over 20 years for Grape Experience and now over 5 years for Commonwealth Wine School. And this is why we're going to have so many more WSET diploma graduates as well as we continue on. So I do just want to take a moment to thank you so much for joining us, either live or through the recording that we'll be posting and distributing afterwards. Thank you for all of your comments and questions. And thank you, Adam and Erica, for joining me as well here today. And before we wrap up, I want to invite Adam or Erica, do you have anything that you'd like to add on here as well?
The only thing I would say is if you are, as I said this now, third time, if you're thinking about diploma, if you've gotten to this point, do it. It's for you. You won't, even if you find that it's harder than you thought, or you need to take a break, you won't be unhappy.
It's so rewarding, not only from someone who's currently going through it, but from all of our diploma graduates and active diploma candidates. I can't say how many times they have either emailed or over the phone or in person said, you know, it is quite a lot of work and a commitment, but it's so rewarding. It's so fun. It's so it's an investment. You know, you're bettering yourself through these studies.
The only
Eric?
other thing I would say is thank you for those of you who are watching, either live or in person. Thanks for taking classes with us in the past and considering us for diploma. We know you've got choices and we really appreciate your business.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
would just add, don't hesitate to contact us, either at Commonwealth Wine School or Grape Experience. If you have more specific questions, we are really here to make that your decision easier and also your journey smoother. So don't hesitate to be in touch with us.
For sure. Well, and we try and make it easy. I'm Tim at CommonwealthWineSchool.com. Erica is Erica at CommonwealthWineSchool.com. Adam, I know you both have a CommonwealthWineSchool.com email and a Grape Experience.
Adam at grapeexperience.com is probably the best.
Yeah, we're really straightforward in terms of our email conventions here. But really, thank you so much for joining in or for watching this. And we wish you the best of your studies and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. All right. Thank you so much, everyone.